Hey friends, this is Angii Trapier. I'm a realtor in Utah County and I love promoting small businesses. I have several friends who are small business owners and I think those are the hidden gems in our communities. So if you own a business, large or small, you may have been like me, wondering how to attract my perfect clients to my services. I met Rod several years ago at a business networking group. And I've been very impressed with his knowledge and strategies in helping businesses get their message across to the right people and getting massive results. So Rod McKenzie, let me just tell you a little bit about Rod. Rod McKenzie Jr. is the chief story coach for Story Changes Everything. For over 25 years, Rod has helped entrepreneurs create and tell their stories. Rod's latest book, The Story Formula, will show you how to create and use stories for all aspects of your business. Rod's storytelling has created hundreds of millions of dollars in sales and profits for businesses worldwide. I'm not kidding. It sounds incredulous, but it's true. Hi, Rod. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today. Rod, I own a real estate business and I have a lot of friends who own businesses. One of the most important things in business is to attract clients. So I'm hoping you can help us out today. I have a few questions. I hope you're game.
Yep.
Okay. Story seems to be a hot buzzword. What exactly is a story in a business context?
Well, thank you for having me, Angii. Sorry about the Bell's palsy. It'll go away soon. So if you see my mouth kind of weird today, that's what this is. You know, stories are really, our whole goal is to connect with our customers. And in order to do that, we have to create an emotional connection. So a little bit of science geek stuff for a second. Our brains can process 11 million bits of information a second, like colors on the walls and things that are around us. But our conscious mind can only process 40. That's 40. So 99.999% of all processing is done in the subconscious. So why does that matter? Well, our subconscious, if we want to process something there, we've got to do more than just words. So we need to create visualizations. So for example, if I were to tell you that, I walked through a rectangular opening in the wall, walked down some steps, and walked out onto the grass and looked up and got wet. That's a story, right? It's a fact and figure story. But if I were to say, I heard thunder and lightning outside, and so I ran through the front door, ran down the steps, walked out onto the grass, and looked up and felt refreshed and cold all at the same time. Now, you envisioned that the way that I wanted you to envision it. They've actually done functional MRIs to where when people actually hear a story, their brain fires just the way that, in the same way that the storyteller's brain fires. So in a business context, a story is not necessarily Jack and Jill ran up the hill, but a story is how we take and present what we have to our clients in a way that they can relate to. Now, one of the big challenges in life is in business is finding people that want what you have to offer. Even if you find those people, then it's really hard to connect with them. So a story is a way for you to share what you have to create an emotional connection with your potential client. So that's kind of the bottom line.
That makes a lot of sense. So on that, what is the most important part of the business's story?
Well, really, the story is not just for marketing and branding, and I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later, but the biggest thing is purpose. So if you have the cornerstone of your story as who you really are and what drives you personally, whether your company is a one-man show or a huge corporation, if you are the cornerstone of that business. And so what drives you is going to drive that business. So when, for example, my purpose is I thrive when I see someone smile and know that I contributed to it. So when I go out and help someone in business, what I do is I help them transform in some way, and that's what really moves me. So the cornerstone of my business is my own personal purpose, because I know I'm an entrepreneur. And so for any business, the cornerstone of their story is their own personal purpose as the founder. And then we get into other parts of the story where, we talk about foundation and things.
Okay. So how can I always create a good story? I mean, is there a key?
Yeah, there is. And what I did is in my book, The Story Formula, I showed it's a step-by-step process. So many people think it's this mystic thing that only madmen ad creative guys can create for their story, for their company. But in reality, there's a process. So for 25 years, I've been telling people stories. And I have a formula that I use. And I finally thought, instead of going out and writing the stories myself, I want to teach people how to do it. So that's why I wrote the book, The Story Formula. And so in there, we start with the purpose. And then we go on to understanding what the proper or the severe escape from pain is that your customers have. When I say escape from, I go back to a story, 7 or 8 years ago when a man was in Utah and he had to cut his arm off to save his life. He was trapped in a boulder. So that pain was so severe that he had to escape from it in order to live. And I understand that most people's products, you're a realtor. So your product isn't, life or death, but it's shelter. It's a basic necessity. And, if you're selling any kind of a widget, you need to understand what your product or service is doing for someone. What was the pain that a pet rock solved? It was loneliness, and that's how they sold the pet rock back in the 80s. It was kind of a silly thing, but it's still the pain that you're solving. And once you understand the pain, then you can understand the big idea, which is how you solve the pain. And that's where so many people focus on, like on Shark Tank. They'll say, well, what's your big idea? And then you need to understand your business's purpose or your business's why. And yes, all businesses need to make money, but even nonprofits. But at the same time, why are you doing it intrinsically? And then what makes you successful intrinsically? So that's the foundation of a company. When you step with that, then you can understand your clients better. Now you can go out and look for those people that have the pain that you want to address and that your big idea will help with. So if you have loneliness in the pet rock, you can go out and find those people that are lonely. And I mean, it sounds simple, but it's really, so many people just don't do it. And the big key is understanding the emotions that are tied to those pains, emotions that are tied to your client's enemies, your emotions that are tied, the emotions that are tied to the events that cause those pains. And so what happens is a customer will be walking along, they'll have a pain and they'll have someone point out that pain or cause that pain, their enemy, in an event, and then they fall into the pit of despair. Yes, that's a Princess Bride quote, but it's really appropriate, because once they fall into that pit of despair, then how do they get out? That's where your solution can then help them reach the promised land and where they want to arrive to. So it's an incredible step-by-step formula that you can fill out for virtually any product or service.
Wow, that is really cool. I appreciate you explaining that. So is that just this message, the story, is it just used for branding, or can entrepreneurs use this for their marketing?
Well, it's for branding, marketing, and virtually anything else. When you have the good foundation that you can build with the story formula, now you have a way to present your company where people can actually understand who you are and relate to you. You know, the biggest challenge that companies have now is showing to their employees that they have a purpose and they're driven on purpose. And actually people now are not staying with companies if the company can't do a lot of good engagement. So employee engagement is one of the biggest indicators of if a business is going to be successful or not. So it works for branding, for marketing, but also what about internal? What about your employees? Well, if you understand your employees' pains, if you understand their problems, who their enemies are, is it the irate customer? Is it the, whatever it is, who their, enemies are, then you can solve their problems, and you can use the story formula to solve problems within your own company as well. So whatever it be, an employee challenges, and there's companies out there that run their entire companies thoroughly on story. For example, Jane.com. It's a deal-a-day warehouse for a lot of women's clothing and different options. And they have focused their entire company around stories for different times of year or different sales, and their engineering and everybody focuses around that story. So it works across the company throughout all the different challenges.
Wow, that's incredible. Very well said. And speaking of understanding, how do I get started really understanding my customers? What if I'm not really clear on that?
This question, I think, is one of the biggest challenges that people have with stories. And it's really to understand what customers you want to work with. So when you understand who you are and what your purpose is, what your business's purpose is, what your pains you're solving, what your big idea is, you're going to be able to really identify who your ideal customers are. As a realtor, you don't want the looky-loos. You don't want the people that are just browsing. You would much rather put somebody in your car and take them to 5 houses and show them the houses and have them be pre-qualified, ready to sign on the dotted line today. Because in today's market, it's just outrageous. But, you don't want someone who's going to get in the car and take 6 weeks to find the home they want. So how do you find as a realtor? So first, once you establish your foundation, who you are as a benefit, you can then understand your customers and transform them. Now, the biggest thing is what makes you unique. As a realtor, I know, Angii, we've talked, and in the past, you've been a project manager. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big part of who you were for many years. And so you run your real estate very efficiently. So when someone steps into your pipeline to help them get a home, from when they start looking to after they get the contract, to get the house under contract, you have everything outlined, and you have everything with, to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and you're not one of these salespeople that has to have 7 assistants and you don't know what assistant they're supposed to be working with. You just get things done, and you get it done right. So when you understand that, when you go out and look for customers that want someone who's efficient, want someone who knows exactly the process they need to go through and can carry them through, cut down on time for the whole purchase process, cut down on their, it can lower costs, all kinds of things, because you know exactly what goes on. Now you can transform their lives in a lot better way so that they can reach that promised land or home ownership a lot faster. So it doesn't matter if you're a realtor, if you're a coach, a story coach like I am, or if you sell widgets down at the corner store. It's when you really understand who you are and you understand who your customers are and go through this basic formula, everything works better.
I love that. Thank you. So if my friends and your friends, anybody who's watching this video, if they're interested in getting help from you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, you can see my backdrop. So there's my website. I've learned a long time ago, I had, when doing videos, that I like to be able to have an easily identifiable way to connect with. So we have my backdrop, my website, storycoaching.co. You can also reach out to me. My phone number is 801-443-4802. My email address is rod@storycoaching.co. So you can reach out to me. I would love to sit down and do what I call a story check and see exactly where the story is for your business. I offer that free because I want to just help people. And if there's a way we can work together in the future, great. If I can just help you along your way, that's awesome as well. I really appreciate your time, Angii.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. You're just so willing to give information and help other entrepreneurs because you're one too, and you see the struggle firsthand. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for taking the time to help my friends and your friends, anybody who's watching this. I hope they get the most out of this and take Rod up on his offer. I know that my friends will definitely appreciate this. And feel free to reach out to Rod. Like I said, he is super, super helpful. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a rock star. He really knows what he's talking about. So thanks for joining us today, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.